So our state senator, Malcolm Augustine, just joined us, so we're honored to have him with us for tonight's work session. So we will move forward with the approval of tonight's agenda. Before we do that, Senator, did you want to be on the agenda to give some updates or anything? Are you sure? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for being here with us. At the moment, I'll call for the approval of tonight's agenda. Moved by Councilmember McBride. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any edits or corrections? I did just want to note for everyone's awareness, our General Counsel, Sue Ellen Ferguson, is on her way, and she wanted to be here for the conversation around the proposal for the CTC related to cell tower reviews because she was a part of that discussion previously. Excuse me. So with that, I did want to ask if we could just make a friendly amendment to the agenda to let her or to discuss that item first under new business because she does have to get to another municipal meeting by 7:30. But that would be the only edit to the agenda. Any other discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And let me say at the outset, it's a better air quality day, but I'm still messed up from all the bad air that we've been experiencing over the last several weeks, so please bear with me. Next, we will call for the approval of the June 12th, 2023 work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Blunt. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any corrections or edits to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, we're really privileged to have Mr. Tony Perez from LA Perez Consulting with us, who is our lobbyist. And at this time, he's going to give us an update for the 2023 legislative session. So, Mr. Perez, we'll turn it over to you. And we have about 15 minutes. Yes.
Joy to come before this all female council. It's exciting. I mean, my pastor was referencing how he believes in the strength of the female yesterday, Pastor Henry P. Davis, First Baptist Church at Highland Park. So we had a great service yesterday, so it was exciting. And it's also a privilege to be here. Congratulations, Madam New County, city, town administrator. And we have a great senator who I can get to brag about a little bit, who I know all the things that Senator Augustine in District 47 does in the legislature as a leader, and not just it starts with his district, but he actually moves a lot of things in Maryland. So I'll just go through a few bills that we looked at. It was about over 2,200 bills in the session, and we probably monitored about 131 of those pieces of legislation in the session. And I'm going to go through a few. It was a lot of changes, obviously, with new legislators coming. I believe it was somewhere like over 40, maybe new electeds in the session. But with the new governor, Wes Moore, I mean, obviously that was exciting. I know you all burned up a lot of shoe leather and everything you could do to make that happen. One of our own in Prince George's County. We had the first, not just the first black governor, but sometimes we leave out, we have the first black attorney general with Anthony Brown out of Prince George's County, District 25. I was hoping, I wasn't sure. I know I'm looking back because I am expecting my intern who was introduced. Oh, there she is. She came in. I'm sorry, I missed that. That's Miss Jamila Robinson. She was an integral part of my team and still is until she goes off to law school in the fall, which I'm going to be. I'm going to miss her. She did a great job. Those reports you received on probably a bi-weekly or monthly basis. I mean, Tony, I could get this done. She was moving on it, and she was a major part of the team, and as I said, still is, and she was able to get our reports done and things of that nature, track legislation, and just to take it. It was her first shot at it, and I personally think she did a wonderful job. But I wanted her to be here because I was introduced to her by a council member out of municipality in Colmar Manor, And so she came to us, and we've just been moving ever since. So you got to find me somebody else. No, just kidding. She's going to be hard to replace. That's what I want to say. So let me just go down a few things that was important in municipal government. Like in the state, we were pushing for the police accountability. That was a big MML priority. Of course, that bill, the results of that bill, it didn't move out of committee. It may be something that MML wants to take up again. We know that's very important with the changing of the way we deal with the matter of our public safety police officers. So we'll take a look at that. We'll continue to work with that. Was sponsored by Delegate Senator Ron Watson and Delegate Lopez. Ron Watson, because I mentioned him because he's out of Montgomery County. He's also the vice chair of the Prince George's Senate delegation. Then we worked on the public street lighting, public utilities, the street lighting equipment. We call it the street light bill. And that legislation, obviously, it passed out of the House, but didn't go through the Senate. That was where it says you find local governments to pay electric companies large sums to light streets and limited in how the public safety resource can be managed. So it was important. It would give municipal government a little bit more input in that process. So, but that again didn't pass. But we'll continue to look at things like that that are important. And then it was Senate Bill 516, HB 516, cannabis reform. That was a major piece. And again, you have to thank people like Senator Augustine, who fights for you down there, and Delegate Fennell and Ivy and others, and Tavares. I can't leave her out. Your team's always working for you. And one of the big things that down there was like assuring that some of the funding for local government, that you get some of that funding and you have control over some of that funding. So there was a percentage that was given. I'll just read this as is in my notes. It says, as passed, local governments were provided the authority to establish reasonable fees compared to similar businesses. The local government sales tax share was also increased by 5% of nine of the sales and use tax for counties, requiring counties to share 50% of the allocations to any municipality in which the revenue was derived, effectively 2.5% for cities and towns. So you know what that is. So for every $1 million spent on cannabis in a municipality jurisdiction, you get about $4,500. That's what that means. So, and it also says that the final bill also states that it was a huge bill. Let me be clear. The final bill states that municipalities may establish reasonable zoning and other requirements for dispensaries, but those requirements may not be unduly burden the licensees. So just keep that in mind. So you do have influence in some of that process, but you have to make sure that you don't overstep in the process. So we also had the one that Senator Augustine, I'm sure, is very proud of, and we spoke a lot of that in our 8 a.m. meetings, Madam Mayor. The Prince George's County Gateway Development Authority established Senator Augustine. I'm going to leave that in case he's sure he doesn't want to say anything about that. I just don't like to take people's shine. I mean, he did such a great job.
This is your show.
Okay, well, it was your show, but you know that bill was very important. It established Prince George's Gateway Development Authority in this county to support development in certain neighborhood revitalization plans and the coordination with certain residents. So I'm just summing it up because I know he's going to get down on it. Now, some of the other things that was important to Prince George's County was, there was there was a bill, it was HB 436. And that bill had it established alcoholic beverages for basically the Blue Line corridor. But basically, what I'll tell you in our little room here today is that something we can be very proud of. I know we're not pushing for alcohol sales, but it was very important that that we will be establishing like an opportunity for Black-owned businesses that'll have a component of a liquor store in some parts of this legislation. So we were able to open it up, not to make things dangerous. I know because the Senate, and if you ever sit through any of those Senate delegation meetings, they'll keep you on task, believe me. And that was a very important piece that came out this year that passed favorably, and it was signed by the governor. And then the Board of Education, this was a bill that was altering the responsibilities of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Certain officers of the county board altering the voting authority and the student member requiring the county board. Now, I'm not going to read all this. I'll just tell you what one piece that I found interesting in there was there's several amendments in there. And again, like I said, it's not that just because you're senator here, I was going to say this stuff anywhere, because I know he was very active in it. There's a very key piece with, we had all this litigation around, and that was HB 1079, I believe, just in case you want the bill number. But there was a lot of litigation around the school board and the chair and all this stuff in the media. And I have to commend like Senator Watson and Senator Augustine here for ensuring that we take care of those problems. We put the past in the past and move things forward. And we think about being positive. I remember he and I having a conversation after this and just listening to his points on this. But so I'm actually glad you're here. But we spoke about that. But I mean, it wasn't a bill it was just a bill we tracked. But I think you should know what's going on with your board. So they put in these regulations as they were supposed to do. But I think that was important, is how they spend the money for for people that file cases and they're on the board. They need to have the kind of legal representation they need, and the board should be able to pay for that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be something that they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their expenses in a legal matter. So I think all that stuff was very important with that, and that bill passed favorably as well. So let me see, where are we next? Let me see. So then there's other, let me go to this one first before I do that. There was another bill that I know the mayor brought to our attention, always remind us of, and it was something that I tracked. I believe it was Delegate Williams' bill, and I think you had, Senator Augustine may have had the other one. I got to go back to my bills here. But it was the maglev piece for the funding. They didn't want any state funding to come out of there, but obviously that bill didn't have success. Obviously, excuse the pun, but the train seems to be moving on this. But I would tell you, keep the fight up. I mean, for 9 years, I represented the Prince George's County Council, and we were adamantly opposed to maglev coming to the county. So please, I mean, I would encourage you to, my personal thing, I would say keep going where you're going. Don't stop your push against this. All right, let's see, where was I on this one? Give me a second. Let me get backtrack because I wanted to go out of order on that one. And then there was another one, not impacting your town, but I raised it because it came up in, it was a bill sponsored by Senator Benson. It was property tax, municipal corporation business property tax rates, and local government reporting requirements and alterations. Now, let me bring this up. This was a bill that was very clear that it was impacting, had to do with audits and things of that nature, and it had to deal with one municipality in this county. And you do your audits. You weren't on that list.
Congratulations.
But there was, congratulations. But one of the problems with that is that we all, as I know all municipalities came in support, which was the right thing to do at the end of the day. But this is one of those things, when you have good relationships, like here it is again, I'm talking about your senator and your delegates, he's here. You have a good relationship. If you have a problem like that, instead of you have to communicate. Let me just be clear. You just have to, this was all about communication. When it got over to the House, the senator, in her words, she hadn't been communicated with, so she was upset about that. And the delegates hadn't had a conversation either. But the delegates, to their credit, took the time and said, okay, well, we're going to try to force a conversation. Because nobody wants, again, this is one of those things, nobody wants Prince George's County all over the news. Right? We don't want to be embarrassed by one municipality who could probably get themselves. So they wanted to give them the opportunity. So the senator and the delegates, from what I was told, decided to give them an opportunity to fix the situation. The reason why I bring it up, though, because we may have created another conversation about now auditing in municipal government. So we have to be aware that there may be a piece that comes forward this upcoming session, so we'll keep our eyes out for that, the team and I. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So the other, one of the other pieces I had was there was a bill that had to do with, oh, I'm sorry, am I running out of time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, oh my God. I haven't even got to the county. I'm sorry. All right, so let me be quick. There was a standing bill in the state that was put in by the county council, which didn't get out of their committee in the council, and that would have created standing, which means you want economic development in Bladensburg. I'll simplify. If Tony Perez lived in Accokeek, that means I could now file a claim to hold up your progress with your project, even though I don't live anywhere near it. That's what that standing bill would have done. That bill didn't make it out of the subcommittee and the House delegation. So let me get out of that and go through some other things and get to, I didn't know I was going that far, so let me get out of this and get into my other one. So there was also a bill, the townhouse, the plastic bill passed in the county. I think that was CB 32 that was enacted. Jamila did a great job tracking that. And then there was CB 42, the senior housing that, Mayor, you brought to our attention to one of the bills you wanted us to track in the PGCMA, so thank you for that. That bill, as we know, has been enacted. There's a few things we can talk about with that. And then there is CB, the townhouse legislation, which didn't move. Obviously, there was a lot of communications from outside people who had an interest in that bill, and that bill didn't move forward. And then there's a new bill out there that has to do with universal design. That'll be the last thing I talk about. The concept's great, but if I had to explain it this way, if I'm a developer, let me be clear, developer is not a curse word, people. It's not a bad, nasty word. If I'm a developer and I have 50 houses, and let's just say, I'm not saying it's a percentage on it, but let's just say the rule is I have to make 10 of those 50 houses have to be handicap accessible. Great concept, but what happens when the market changes? Or what happens when you sell all 40 of those houses, the last 10 are there, they have to be handicap accessible. You have to look at, what I'm saying is I think there needs to be some sort of work group where we invite all parties to the table, including people that it will impact in business. And so that's something we have to look at, and that's the kind of position that we're looking at. And some of you may have seen my email to PGCMA after talking to the president. I know this is about Bladensburg, but this is an overall thing. We have to start looking at things with the bigger scope, so we can see everything, and everybody should have a part in that conversation. It's a great concept, don't get me wrong, but if you're stuck with 10 lots, some business owners losing money. And we can't just have people lose money when I'm quite sure with some of the developers I know I've talked to will be willing to build those houses if asked if someone needed that kind of housing, that structure for their new home. So I'll leave it there, and sorry if I didn't get through my whole 50 minutes. So
No worries.
If I went over my time.
No worries.
Thank you, Madam
We
Mayor.
definitely will have to put this back on the September agenda, because here, to give ourselves time to digest and then think through what our legislative priorities will be for 2024 legislative session. So if you could plan to come back.
Yep.
I know we're at time, but was there one or two quick questions before we let Mr. Perez go? Because we do have a house full and want to make sure we get through everything. But I did take notes just in terms of things that didn't get across the finish line, like the Police Accountability Board, and just want to talk with the whole group in September to think about how we strategize for that. Same thing with MagLab. I talked to, is it Senator Bidle about that?
Bidle.
And she gave some good suggestions for how to move forward with that and have a better outcome next time around. So if we can get you to come back, and Jamila, you may be in law school, but we do want to thank you for all the effort that you put into helping us to get our regular communications from the LA Perez team.
Yep.
Senator, did you want to add anything from your standpoint?
Well, there is. So as Tony mentioned, the one thing I will say is he did say we did set up the Prince George's Gateway Development Authority, and I do think that will be important for the town of Bladensburg. The purpose of it is to create a state entity that will be focused on the redevelopment and revitalization of the target area. And the target area includes Bladensburg, Cottage City, Colmar Manor, North Brentwood, and Mount Rainier, with a real eye towards arts and making us we already have a vibrant arts community, but to really strengthen our arts community as it relates to places for them to live and also places for them to work. What I will share with you all is that this first year, we simply set up the framework, and there's still work to be done on the framework for it. But I also will say to you that nothing is new. I simply took this from a colleague of mine from Baltimore City, who I have great respect for. He did it 2 years ago. I'm just copying what he did. In this year's budget, he was able to get $11 million for his area in order to help with the revitalization and of a portion of West North Avenue in Baltimore. I'm going to be looking to do the same thing in the years to come so that we can support what we have as our vision, our shared vision for the revitalization of where we live. And so I would say that was a very local piece of state legislation that will have an impact. We're looking to have it have an impact on where we live going forward.
Thank you for that addition and for also just taking on the brunt of the work to get the conversations and the right people to have the collaboration to do that. I think you're right. It is going to play a huge role in the communities, and we do understand while we say we are a gateway arts district, it really isn't if we don't have the studios where their arts are being sold, if we're not providing adequate housing. So it helps to strengthen the argument of having this gateway arts district. So thank you for your work on that, Senator.
Absolutely.
Sure, Councilmember Rout.
Thank you. So given your update with the gateway development, I would like to know, what are your recommendations that the Bladensburg Town Council needs to take to ready ourselves to position ourselves just like Baltimore? What are some things that we need to start thinking of so that we can be ready for when the time comes, something like 11 million for the poor towns? Thank you.
Sure. I would say that the town should continue thinking about its strategic vision for the town and know that for me, this is a vehicle to help to support that. So the town already has its eyes on the new municipal center, for example. It has its eyes on the training center, right? The question to me is, okay, what else? What about the redevelopment of Bladensburg Road, right? Those kinds of things, we should be thinking about that. We should also be bringing those things forward for bond initiatives so that we can start that process, maybe get some planning money in for those kinds of things so that they are further along when we go and we say to the state, hey, state, this is a priority for the state, and we're ready, right? So we got the planning going so that when we do get ourselves there, that to me, so to me, it really is about making sure that we know what our vision is and we start planting the seeds for it, understanding it's going to be a multi-year project. It's going to take a while for these things to come through.
Thank you for that response, Senator, and we hear you loud and clear, and we will get to work. And I know we're a little behind schedule because ideally, from your standpoint, you would have wanted legislative priorities by this time.
Yeah.
So we'll be working by September to have that finalized for you and the entire delegation, as well as our county representatives. And Mr. Perez, you had your hand.
This will be real quick.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for your letter of support for Luminous Doctors Community Hospital to get the funding for that. I mean, it was tough budget times, but we were able to, with the help of Senator Augustine and others, to achieve some funding for that. But you all were right in the front with your letter of support, so that was great for us. So thank you for doing it. And just FYI, you got
But Tony, you didn't say what it was for. Because
Well,
it's important to say what it's for to everybody who's here.
Sure, you could have kept going. That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it was funding. We're trying to get a maternal health ward established in Prince George's County. There is a need for, mothers to have a good situation when they go to give birth, and we're going to continue pushing that again this session. So obviously the support will be needed again for somehow, some way. And just please look at those two reports. I know. Thank you for receiving our 2022. Sorry we were so behind. But tell me which format you like. I'd be curious to know, but hopefully you like both reports as we go through. Thank you. Thanks for giving me extra time.
Absolutely. And just to the senator's point, why that's so important is it was just on NBC News today that being pregnant for Black women, Indigenous women as well, it is dangerous.
Yeah.
The healthcare is not equitable, and the system is not set up to support them in the same way.
Right.
And so this is a huge initiative that Doctors Hospital is undertaking. They're literally saving lives. So thank you all for the work that you did to really, spearhead that and get us all on the same page. So with that, thank you. We're going to move forward to the next update. And Mr. Perez, we'll circle back about getting you on the September agenda.
Absolutely. I'll be here.
Thank you. So next, I am super duper excited. It's old business, but it's kind of new because it's the 57th Avenue proposal. Mr. Purnell Hall, along with various members of the team, has been working hard to get the engineers out here to understand what all is needed. So Mr. Hall, we'll turn it over to you to walk us through the proposals.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, staff, and other attendees. I don't know everybody's name, but yes, as Mayor has spoken, this project has been going on for quite a little while, almost, reaching almost 2 years now, due to weather permitting, due to some other difficulties. So right now, what we have is, I hope that you'll have that in your package up there. We have 3 bids from Pronto Paving, Beltway Paving, and also MT Langley that gave us some bids on this project. This project is kind of a big project. It's probably one of the longest, widest roads in the town, and probably one of the heaviest driven roads in the town. So with that being said, we have one bid for $311,695, which came from Pronto Paving, and also Beltway Paving came in at $285,675, and also MT Langley came in at $200,900. So with that being said, as we if you have your proposals in front of you, I'm just gonna go down the line with the first proposal, which we had was with Pronto Paving, and let me just clear this up first, Mayor and Council. In order to mill and overlay a road, your gutter base has to be correct for the mill and overlay and the water runoff to run correctly and not to just spill over in the middle of your roadway. And up there, 57th Avenue, we had a little section that's probably about, I'm just gonna give it maybe about 45, let's say 45 to 50 feet, that the gutter base has turned all the way up like this. In order to mill it and overlay it the right way, you have to fix that gutter pan and curve before you do any type of milling, or you're gonna have to bust up your new milling on the ground 12 inches or more to fix that. And this Pronto Paving was the only paving company that threw that in there as a job, that they knew that if we do this, we cannot do it without doing this curb and gutter. So everybody else didn't require that in there because this project was not done based on any concrete work. But in order to do the milling and overlay, you just have to have that curve done, and they was spectacular to put it in there, whether we asked for any concrete work or anything. And that's the way that, that's what I was looking at right there. And also Beltway Paving, they came in at $285,675. But the thing about them is, the only thing that kind of turned me away was, you tell us striping, but what type of striping? where the striping going, what type of striping. You just give us a number for striping, and it doesn't give a detailed line item of yellow center line, 5 inches, 3 crosswalks, this and anything like that. So that would kind of just threw me off a little bit, because you're not telling us a detail of striping that you're going to do, and in your proposal you don't have anything about we're going to repair this as in kind. So that is my fact on that one. And also with MT Langley, price sound very good, $1,200, but it's very, very low to me, is what I'm trying to catch. I mean, you also get the amount of work. I mean, you know, when you get a low bid like this, sometimes the work is not completely done to our satisfaction of the strengthness, PSIs of the, not the concrete, but the asphalt that's putting down. PSIs is the pressure of asphalt that can compact as you know, driving along or whatever. And that that area right there is, as we said, is heavily driven, and not with just cars, minor trucks, but it's buses. I mean, it's multiple buses. You got school buses. Well, not right now because they're not in session, but you got metro buses that run from 8 or 9 to 10, I guess, somewhere around that, just constantly up and down that road. And that's my concern about the security of the job and how long the job will last. Is there any questions before? I mean, Mayor,
Sure.
Council, Rich may have.
And I know others have been involved in this, so I want to give you a chance to just give us as much information before we start with the questions, if that's okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything?
Nothing to add at this point until I understand if there are any questions, but I'm good so far. Thanks,
Got it.
Mr. Thanks, Mr. Hall.
So in terms of the proposal with Pronto, I was trying to understand with the new full depth asphalt install. So when they're doing that, it looked like it's about a week to complete everything.
Yeah, I think they said, I seen it in here, Mayor. I'm sorry, I've been going through all of them.
6 days of traffic
yeah, that's
control.
what I seen, 6 days, weather permitted and
Yep.
anything like that. And plus, as you know, once you start milling, any utility, sometimes you may have a problem with getting the right utility back to put in place. So if I can clarify, I would say maybe about 15 to 16 working days, weather permitted.
Okay. And then that would include coming back and doing the striping and all the painting at the crosswalks and the left turn lanes and everything?
Yes, ma'am. Everything is in full detail on the pavement marking right there.
Mm-hmm. Got it, because I wasn't sure when I saw the 6 days above if it was separate for when they come back and do the painting, or if that was all inclusive of the total 6 days that they anticipated of
Yes,
work.
ma'am.
Got it, okay. And then just to be clear, the hours of operation for the work would be Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 or 4?
I would say 9 a.m. to probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock, since we still have a lot of light left.
Okay,
Now, since we don't have school, they may get out there 8:30 or I mean, you know,
Yeah.
time varies about. I mean, you know, but we don't want them to start no earlier than maybe 8:30 or something like that.
okay, got it,
That's for any one of them. Any one of them.
okay. Any questions from the council or comments? Councilmember Rout?
I just wanted to know, is there a project that we've had to this magnitude recently?
Not since I've been here. I mean, road improvement.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe I need to ask a different question.
Okay.
Have we been successful with this contractor in the past? And can you speak to Pronto Paving specifically work? How have, because it sounds like that you're recommending Pronto Paving more than the others.
Well, in a way, because they're doing the little concrete work that nobody else just didn't want to put on there. So, in a way, yes, ma'am, I'm trying to lean towards them a little bit. But we have had experience with Pronto Paving
Didn't they do 58th, or was it Decatur? They did a prior
Well,
project.
I'm sorry, let me back on up. Yes, we did have something compared to that. 58th Avenue was about the same amount of ballpark figure with that, and we used Reliable on there. But it was a lot of glitches with Reliable when we started when we started that work up there, period. So they had to come back and do a few things that they just thought that they could do instead of 88 ramps had to be 2% and all that. Oh, we didn't think that when you're looking at the contract. So that's where we had a little confusion where they had to start back over. They had to dig up some more stuff of just the way that they took it upon themselves to go ahead and start to work that way. And also back to your point, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and back to your point. I'm sorry about the experience that we had with Pronto Pavement. They did some little small jobs for us on 54th Street. They did a little milling and overlay. It was just a little repair, and that was on May the 21st. And also they did the Decatur Circle, the little cul-de-sac that was real bad. They did that, and also they did the 5400 block of Taussig Road, and all of these was kind of repaired that was, we had to do right now. We didn't reach out for plans and all this because it was self-explanatory and the distance wasn't so, it wasn't no more than about 80 to 70 something feet. So they did 3 little small jobs with us. Yes, ma'am. And MT Langley, as y'all know, they came through the town. They was a contractor for WSSC when WSSC did most of all the water mains in town. They did a lot of that work, and as you can roll through town a little bit, as you can see some indentions, some 4x6s, some 4x8s that's already just trying to sink a little bit. So that's the type of security that we don't want to come into dealing with 57th Avenue. Although that you have most companies, when they're doing milling and overlay, they just give you a warranty of a year.
But I think if I'm following, it sounds like you've been satisfied with the work that Pronto has, and you would be comfortable, Mr. Hall, working with them on this project, just based on their track record with the previous projects?
Yes, ma'am. And not only that, we keep let me say it like, I shouldn't say it like that, but it seems like we're feeding them with just little jobs, and they come rapidly every time we ask for something. So to see how their company and how their workmanship work on a bigger project, I would like to see something like that, soon, because it's not fair. I don't think it's fair to just kind of direct them towards that little small stuff.
Any other questions from the council or staff? Any additional comments?
And as we see, I'm sorry.
Ms. Ferguson,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Ms. Ferguson.
Oh.
I take it that there's been an engineering report
Yes,
to
ma'am.
this,
Yes, ma'am.
and there's going to be a contract for this so that you can take care of some of these issues that came up last time?
What was that?
There's going to be a contract for this? So that you can, because there really should be.
Of
Yes.
course,
the
yeah.
size
For any of our major road things, really any projects above 10,000, the contract when it's drafted will come your way.
Okay.
Just like with 58th Avenue, remember all the back and forth. So
Oh, yeah.
just get ready, because we're going to need your help with that actual contract.
Okay. That's
Yes.
just a question. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to make sure that, so I guess what staff's recommendation is that Beltway was the lowest bidder, but they were not as responsible. We don't find them to be as responsible and responsive in their bidding, is what basically the bottom line, and that we're going with the second lowest bidder, which is Pronto Paving, correct, Mr. Hall?
Pronto Pavement is the highest bidder.
Is they're the second or the highest?
They the highest. They came in a difference of $26,020 from Beltway Paving. And let's also remind
Or
you
Laney, I
that
guess, would be the second, right, the second lowest, so they're the second highest. I mean, they're the
MT Langley is the lowest bid.
lowest bid, so why are we
Beltway.
disqualifying Laney?
No, the reason why I'm not disqualifying, when you have a road that needs to be done like that, and
Right.
they did not put in the bid for the curb and gutter, when you mill and overlay a road, that
Right.
curb and gutter has
No,
to be.
I saw the concrete work that it says that they do as a separate job, but they're gonna remove curb and gutter, but you didn't find that to be responsive. So that's what the point is, right?
Yes,
You didn't find their explanation to be responsive for them as the lowest bidder as well. So basically, you're saying that Pronto Paving is the most responsive of the bidders.
That I'm saying, yes, ma'am.
Responsive and responsible bidder.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
And then just to clarify, because it looks like bids 1 and 2 for the mill and overlay plus the concrete work total
That's what it was, yeah.
$317,325. So actually, MT Laney is the highest bid.
It's the highest bidder.
And then Beltway Plaza. Oh, sorry.
Let's exclude the concrete work.
Take that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
None of them
gotcha.
was on the concrete work right now.
Got it.
That concrete work that you're seeing is a little bit curb and gutter, but it's also, do you see the ADA compliant ramps? That's what that is.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to understand. So I think it would have been clearer if we had like a, to delineate that, because I think that's what the issue is that I think we're doing the total. And when we're looking at these, they're not all bidding apples to apples. But some are bidding apples to oranges on this. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so that's what, so yeah. So, I get it. I just wanted, that was my own question as well. So I'm sorry, today's day one, but I just wanted to check in. But from the standpoint of I agree with Mr. Hall's assessment, the fact that if the bidder is responsible and responsive, he's finding that that Pronto Paving was better for the amount, and that they're being more responsive to what the needs were. So that's our recommendation.
Perfect, thank you.
And the only reason that they came a little bit higher is because the concrete work for that little patch work right there was added. That's added in there for the 26 unit. They probably 17,000.
Got it.
Working with
Councilmember
it.
Brown, you had a comment or question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And mine was, and you may have covered it, regarding the curb and gutter, Mr. Hall.
Yes, ma'am.
So with Pronto, you're saying that the Pronto, they are including the curb
Yes, ma'am.
and gutter
In their pricing.
in
Yes,
their
ma'am.
costs.
It's on page 2, the second bulletin.
Right.
Great, thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
good.
Hall. Any other questions before we move on? So this will be brought up on the council meeting agenda in the 7 o'clock meeting, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the proposal from Pronto Paving so we can get this done. As Mr. Hall can tell you, this has had me concerned because of the timing. With the number of streets that we have, with school being out of session, we can't afford to delay that work any longer. We missed the cutoff due to engineering and some other issues last summer, and we couldn't afford to start this project while school was in session. So we're at that point where by approving this tonight, the construction work can happen once we get the final contract, the terms identified and everything, and move forward, because we really are up against a hard timeline. The school buses, the parent vehicles, the metro buses cannot continue to go down 57th Avenue in the condition that it's in. So I appreciate all the thoughtful questions and comments from the team, and just look forward to further pushing this over the finish line in the 7 o'clock meeting. With that, we'll move forward with an update on the flood barrier project. So after the council approved funding for the flood mitigation project through Prince George's County, some of the staff and I did have a chance to just follow up, let the Department of Public Works for Prince George's County know that we were on board, at least initially, and that we understand our next step is community engagement and community education. So with that in mind, I did ask DPWT to put just a little flyer together that we could share with our residents to make them aware of, to make them aware of the project. And so we can circle back up with them about a community meeting to be held later this month to bring them up to speed, and also give them the opportunity to ask any questions or raise any concerns that they have with the flood mitigation project directly through the Department of Public Works and Transportation. So in talking with the associate director today, she did provide a couple of date options. Right now, what we're trying to do is see if we can get Bladensburg Elementary School for the meeting for Tuesday, July 25th, and then a second meeting in case we miss residents on either August 2nd or 3rd. Again, we have to get approval from the school, but just for everyone's awareness, we're trying to do those two meetings. to just give double opportunities for residents to come out and be fully informed about the full project, what would be required in terms of easements and so forth to construct the flood barrier. So that is just a brief update, and I'll entertain any questions from the council at this time. Councilmember Rout.
Thank you so much, Mayor James, for the update. Just wanted to know about the marketing plan as it relates to how this will get into the hands of the residents that would be affected. Thank you.
Absolutely, great question. So the county did provide the list of addresses along with a map of the impacted area. And I want to thank Councilmember Brown. She was helpful this weekend in helping me start going door to door to speak to residents, introduce the project to them, hand them a copy of the flyer. We plan to wrap that up this week. And that way, we've had one touch point. The second touch point will be doubling back with the community meeting flyer. And then Councilmember Brown, throughout the idea, we'll talk to Ms. Bailey Hedgepeth about this, but doing a mailer to affected residents. We're talking about roughly 8690 homes, so it's not a major mailer, but we feel like touching them door to door twice, sending the mailer, that's 3 attempts to make them aware of the community meeting and the importance of everyone coming out, getting the information, and making a decision whether or not they want to be a part of the project. So thank you for that question.
Question.
Sure.
Thank you for allowing me to ask a follow-up question. And so this is great. I wish I would have known as a Ward 1 council member to be able to join you all. So next time you go out, I would like an invitation. Thank you. And then also, if I could be emailed also the same information that you all had with the 86 to 90 homes, that would be greatly appreciated. My follow-up question is, there are other residents that may or may not be affected with the easements and or just the idea of this coming into town. And so I don't think that it's our best effort to have 2 meetings, one for just, or I'm sorry, 3 meetings, or 2, and then another set of meetings for everyone. Would there be a marketing plan for the other homes that are, there's more than 90 that are up and down the corridor of being on either side of the affected area. So would it be worth of us just doing an EDDM to the whole area and not just these targeted homes, since we've hit them a couple times a number of ways? Is that something that we would be interested in, to open it up so that all of the homes that are in this area have the opportunity to understand what's going on in their community?
Yeah, thank you for those recommendations. We can definitely discuss them further and see what makes the most sense. And happy to invite you to join us the next time that we go out to wrap up the door-to-door distribution. But with respect to the priority, I just want to be clear. We understand we will not hit every single impacted homeowner with one meeting. So the purpose of the second meeting is a follow-up with them. We are sharing the information via the work session, via council meetings. We've talked about it as well in budgeting, so it's been available to all residents. So I think that by leveraging our town newsletter, whether it's the e-blast and the next print edition, we can touch every single door in town. So we do want everyone to be aware, but to be clear, it's great for everyone's awareness, but for this project to move forward, it is important for the impacted homeowners to be on board and to give consent. And so that will be the top priority because they're most directly affected by the flooding that comes off of those channels. But again, thank you, and let's just continue talking further about how we can improve the process. And so with that, I want to keep us moving because Ms. Ferguson, I am watching the time and want to get to you before you have to run off. The last update under old business is with respect to the Bladensburg High School track and field. This is another area where residents have expressed a lot of concern, and people who don't even live in Bladensburg but care about the school, who've been really upset with the conditions of the track and field for the last number of years. Senator Augustine, not just because you're in front of me, but even when you're not here, I just want to make sure that you know we understand the impact directly that you've had on getting us the funding for this project. We recognize it has not been easy. It has taken a number of years. You've been at that at least since 2018, at least. And we had a pandemic in the midst of this, and you were able to come through for us with the funding, and we're very, very grateful for that. With respect to some things that have been happening, the contractor has completed demolition of the existing track event and drainage pipe, subgrade and perimeter drainage excavation, and installation of new perimeter drain system and outlet replacement has also taken place. The contractor is currently installing new perimeter track concrete curbs, spectator fencing, and installation of stone base for turf field, drainage, and track areas. In addition, they're also installing concrete curbing for infield track events, so your long jump, your discus, those types of events in the pole vault area as well. They're moving forward by continuing to work to establish the track subgrade, beginning installation of asphalt track base and installation of the goalpost, again, the discus and pole vault foundations. I did ask Mr. Gray if I could just bring up a few images, again, because today's meeting is being recorded and we recognize all residents are not on the meeting, so I just want it in the permanent record so everyone can see. And I will also forward this to the council and include it in my report as well. So Mr. Gray, I am going to attempt to share my screen. If it doesn't work, then we'll just have to circulate it via email. I don't see it on this screen yet, but it does appear that it is sharing on my end. Okay. And so what the residents who are viewing are seeing right now is the stadium entrance, and everything is pretty much cleared out with the exception of the bleachers. Freezing up on me here. Bear with me. Vito, now I know how you feel with with the budget. Yes, and I can't get this little window to go away. Yeah, no judgment. Okay, so here we go. And so now the image is showing where the track comes up along the fencing and where the curbing has to be installed. Here, you're looking at the area, I guess, as you're facing east on the track, and seeing everything cleared out as well. And this is where the major drainage issues are being addressed. And so, again, everything has been removed and the new pipe work is happening there. So, again, just wanted to share these to let people in the community know the work truly is happening. You can drive by, but I don't know how close you can get to the work. So just thought it would be important to let everyone see that the construction is well underway, and that we are looking, hopefully soon, sometime this fall, to be in a position to be doing a ribbon cutting, Senator, for the new track and field. So again, between the meetings, Council, I'll forward this over to everyone so you have it, just in case you get questions from residents and want to be able to share the information with them as well. And now that takes us through the end of old business. So Mrs. Ferguson, thank you for your patience. We want to proceed with the proposal from CTC related to cell tower reviews. And this is a repeat of a discussion the council had a few months ago when we were discussing whether or not it would be appropriate to work with Prince George's County to have them review our applications that are submitted to the town, or whether we hire a consultant to help us to manage the process and review all the siting requirements and application review process. And so I see Mr. Sean Thompson is on the line. Mr. Charnovich, was he going to just do a quick overview, or did you want to tee this up, or Mrs. Hedgepeth?
Yeah, Mr. Thompson, can you hear us?
I heard something.
One second, no. Try it again.
Hi, I'm sorry. Would you like me to introduce the proposal?
He's talking, but.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
We're just trying to adjust the volume because it's very faint.
I have to pull it off my,
Have to pull off your computer.
yeah. Oh gosh, where's the speaker on here, anybody?
It is,
Oh, there it is.
come on, let's do it.
Try it again.
Okay.
Hi, this is Sean Thompson.
We can hear about here.
1 second, let me send it to the. Love that air.
Okay, now you have to turn down that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's working.
I don't know why I can't hear him.
Let's see. Can you hear us now? We can talk, I think.
I hear the mayor and council talking right now. Correct.
I can hear some conversation, but let me know
We
if
can
you
hear
want
you
me
now.
to.
Okay.
Who's he coming through?
We can hear you.
Is that coming through your computer? Let's turn it up.
That's fine. Go ahead, let him present. Probably just let him.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I understand that that's a request for me, so I'm going to go ahead, but stop me if not. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Sean Thompson. I work with CTC Technology and Energy. I've worked with CTC for about 10 years, although we've been around for a lot longer than that. We were founded in 1983, and CTC only does business with the public sector. So we do not take any work from the industry or the wireless providers of applications that we would be reviewing. And the idea is that we'd be able to provide unbiased opinions and advice to the town. We have submitted a proposal to you all that covers 3 main areas. Each of these 3 items are things that we do for other localities within Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, but also nationwide. We provide these services. The proposal, as I mentioned, can be broken down into 3 parts. One is to review applications that are submitted to you. So for instance, if Verizon Wireless wants to place antennas on a utility pole in your right-of-way, what we are proposing to do is to review that application, make sure that it is complete and accurate, and then we can review it to make sure that it's compliant with all the local, state, federal laws, etc. The other thing that we can do is provide on-call technical advice on anything related to these wireless facilities. Quite frequently, there may be questions from the industry, can we do this or that, or what would be the rules around, these things, and we can provide advice on a ongoing basis. The last thing that we propose is being able to provide strategic guidance on your local ordinance. If you wanted to make any kind of revisions to them, what might that look like? But we could also take a look at the current state of affairs. Most of this work is basically all of the work that I've talked about so far would be done on a time and material basis. So we would just bill on an hourly rate. So if you receive more applications, that would be more work, and less would be less, obviously. The only thing that is that we want to point out is that there is a small setup fee of $2,750. Basically, what we use that for is to make sure that we can set our systems up to comply, basically to make your local rules work, so that we can set up our review based on your particular desires. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any kind of questions.
With the applicant would be billed back. Sorry. Okay, it would be billed back to them. So the town, in essence, would again just be responsible for that initial cost. And the other thing is, I just want to make sure I'm clear, it includes an online application system so that they could submit electronically. When they upload their documents and the applications, the process would be that information comes to you, and that's when, based on our whatever agreement we would enter into, it would initiate all the steps that were outlined in the proposal on your end.
That's correct. And that's, in a large part what that first setup fee, that $2,750 does is allows us to set up that online portal so that if you choose, then the applicants could apply through that portal. That's right.
And that means they would be able to pay their fees through that portal, or we would just have to bill them once everything's complete from the town perspective?
The portal itself does not accept payment, so that would need to be facilitated between the town and the applicant. We'd be happy to kind of help coordinate how that works. Some localities would prefer to have some type of application fee up front, and then if there is, let's say that our fee overruns that they'd have a mechanism to go back and get the rest from the applicant. But in any case, we can help you work through, exactly, how you set that up and the mechanism to receive those payments. It's just that we wouldn't be collecting the payment on your behalf, though.
Clarifying, that's why I was asking, because I was wondering if it came through the portal to you or not. Mr. Tonelli, any questions about that as it relates to the billing process?
No.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, and for the council, any questions? As I said, I know previously when we discussed it, Mrs. Ferguson walked us through all the various options. Did you want to add anything before I open it up? Because you may answer questions with any additions you may offer.
I actually have several questions based on the presentation.
Okay. Councilmember, you want to get yours in, or do you mind if I defer to Ms. Ferguson? Okay.
It's our lawyer.
Thank you.
I need her to ask all her questions first. Clear it up.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay.
When you talk, he has to turn
Yeah.
his thing. So you can talk.
There's feedback, so I gotta silence it when people are talking here, so we can respond to the feedback.
So you can ask your questions, he'll hear you.
All right. We have emailed each other before. I'm the attorney for College Park also. So they have an existing agreement. Mr. Crane is the person with CTC that works with the city in terms of doing the review of the plans. And we just updated that contract very recently. It was based on a bid contract. We dealt with your attorney also. One of the things that's in there is a set fee for certain activities, such as the review of an application. And Bladensburg will have its own application. It'll be very similar to College Parks, and its own license agreement. But they had a set fee for a new installation entirely, using a replacement pole or an existing pole, and then just modifications to something that's already there. and I didn't see that as part of the proposal. The town is going to propose to, as part of the application, require that the vendor, the person who's asking for the ability to place the facility, to pay up front for CTC review. It would be helpful to know what those fees are, and I was curious as to why there isn't a set fee for those types of services in the proposal.
Sure. So we perform these services for a lot of clients, and in general, these will be set up for time and materials. And the reason for that is that the review time can vary quite a bit from application to application. There may be a lot of back and forth between the applicant. They may not, for instance, agree with the town's views or our view. There may be public feedback that needs to be dealt with or answered. So these are all things that can. There may be public meetings, et cetera. So these are all things that cause quite a bit of variability in the amount of time it takes for applications. In I think the College Park's case, in others too, they find that it's more convenient to just simply know what it's going to be, and in that way, they can charge the applicant up front. They know what our billing is going to be, and they don't have to worry about picking something up on the back end. It's our preference to do this time and materials because it's just a truer way to handle that. But if the town would like to see a set fee, I think we can take a look at that and see and put that together for you. So whatever you'd like.
Good. It would be good to know what that is, to see if it's consistent with other jurisdictions that have an agreement. Because I know you represent a number of them. So the county also. So, and they will have they already have a license application. A license agreement application will look like College Park's and will also follow the manual that the county has already adopted. And so it should be consistent with what you're used to seeing. So no particular oddities there in terms of looking for something that you're not ordinarily looking for.
Sure.
Because one of my questions was about does this contract or agreement presented encompass all of the fees? Last time when we talked, I was particularly interested in understanding if there is an appeals process for, let's say, for instance, the applicant does not agree and would like to appeal to the county, who then, or we're shaking our head because there is no appeal.
You have an absolute right to control what happens in your right-of-way, except in one slice of it, which is the county had already okay from a zoning perspective that these installations could be placed in the right-of-way as a zoning matter. They've already done that. I'm not sure why the County Tower Committee continues to look at these, since it recognizes in your law that it does nothing to reduce your authority in your right-of-way.
Right.
So I don't know why they're still looking at them, but they do. And that's not something that Bladensburg has to fight with them about.
Got it.
Because you have your own rights to set your criteria and have it complied with. It's sensible to adopt pretty much what the county has adopted also, so that a business doesn't have to come in and deal with 27 different types of laws plus the counties. So that's why in the jurisdictions that I'm representing, it's all gone that way, and we're adopting the same kinds of, the same type of manual. But you have the right to decide. What you don't, where the difficulty comes, is the federal government has limited your rights as to what you can say, not the county. And they've limited what you can charge, and they have limited in what ways you could say no. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you think the installations, for one thing, affect the health of nearby residents, you're not allowed to question that. So there's any number of things that the federal government's already decided for you. But it's not the county that decides that, except in zoning. They've already okayed this type of installation everywhere, so you don't really have to worry about that.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And also, as part of the services that are provided, it sounds like you'll help us establish what our overall program looks like, all the criteria for it. However, one of the questions I had is there a tipping point, Sue Ellen, a point at which we can say the town of Bladensburg does not want any more small cell towers beyond this number, so that we don't end up with visual pollution, noise pollution all over the town?
There's really only a practical limitation that can be placed. I mean, if you're talking about a certain right-of-way that is already chock full and nothing else can go in there, then physically there's no way to do it, and they'd have to put it somewhere else. But it could just be a little further down the road. And while you can encourage the companies to stay on your commercial roadways, the big roadways, and not go into your residences, residential streets, they each have their own architecture that they're following up with, and you can't make them. So it's really just a practical matter. Engineering-wise, they would have to show CTC that it can be done in a way that fits in your right-of-way and is sensible. And that's one of the things that CTC would look at. Do the engineering plans make sense? And if I haven't said that correctly, Sean, please let me know.
That sounds right on. That sounds right on. That sounds right on.
Other questions from the council? So this is on the council meeting agenda for us to take a position on formally and vote to move forward. Again, from the last discussion, the council felt strongly that we wanted to maintain some control and not just give it over to Prince George's County to review and approve applications for us. So it sounds like we're still of that same mindset. The next item, and Sue Ellen, again, thank you for fitting us in. I know you have to run shortly because it's already 6:43. The next item is the Housing and Urban Development Cooperation Agreement with Prince George's County. Mr. Charnovich, did you want to talk us through that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So this is an agreement that the town already has in place from 2021 to 2023. And now the new agreement is up for another 3 years. It's with the Prince George's County Department of Housing and Community Development, and it's to requalify Bladensburg as an urban county. So we continue to receive CDBG funding. Frankly, I found out last week that we didn't even need to take action necessarily. If we were already a member of the program, which we were, it continues onward unless we choose to not be a partner in the program. But given it was already on the agenda, I felt that it'd be good to keep it on the agenda just as a matter of for the council to see it and for the community to understand what we were doing. But that's what it is in essence. The town has been a member of the program, and just for us to continue on as a member of the program.
And I know she stepped out, but Mrs. Bailey Hedgepeth was stressing that one of her priorities was finding out where we were with CDBG funding for grants. We were talking about it in the context of adding street lights, more road improvements, and things of that nature. So signing on would be a commitment for FY 2024, FY 2025, and FY 2026. And as we've learned, they are flexible with the funding. Sometimes situations happen beyond our control. We have to go to them and say, we need a little more time to get this project done, and they've been able to work with us. So it has been a wonderful partnership for the town. So any comments or questions from the council? Because this is also on the 7 o'clock meeting agenda for us to vote on it as well. Nope. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. We have come to the end of tonight's agenda. Senator, one more call for anything you want to share? All right. Thank you again for joining us last Monday as well with Mrs. Augustine. It was great seeing you guys at the Waterfront Park, and appreciate your support. And so with that, I will now call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.